What are the differences between Windows 95 and Windows 98? If you're nostalgic for the 90s and wondering what set Windows 95 and Windows 98 apart, you're in the right place. Let's take a trip down memory lane and explore the key differences between these two iconic operating systems. First off, Windows 95 was a game changer when it was released. It introduced a new user interface, the Start menu, and it was the first Windows version to integrate MS-DOS and Windows into a single operating system. However, it had some limitations, like only supporting the FAT16 file system, which meant it couldn't handle disk partitions larger than 2 gigabytes. Windows 98, released 3 years later, built upon the foundation of Windows 95. One of the significant improvements was the support for the FAT32 file system, which allowed for larger disk partitions. This was actually introduced in Windows 95 OSR2, but Windows 98 made it standard. Another big difference is USB support. Windows 98 was the first version to fully support USB devices, making it much easier to connect peripherals like printers, scanners, and external hard drives. Windows 95, on the other hand, required updates like OSR2 to get basic USB functionality. Internet Explorer was another area where Windows 98 improved. Windows 98 came with Internet Explorer 4.0, which was later updated to Internet Explorer 5 in the second edition of Windows 98. This provided better web browsing and additional features like internet connection sharing, which allowed multiple computers on a local network to share a single internet connection. In terms of hardware requirements, Windows 98 needed a bit more power than Windows 95. For Windows 98, you needed at least a 486DX 66 MHz processor, 16 megabytes of RAM, though 24 megabytes was recommended, and about 195 megabytes of free hard disk space for an upgrade from Windows 95. For a full install, it required around 175 megabytes to 255 megabytes of free space on a FAT32 drive. The installation process was also smoother in Windows 98. Unlike Windows 95, which required a boot disk and manual copying of files from the CD to the hard drive, Windows 98 installation was more straightforward and user-friendly. Stability is another key difference. Windows 98, especially the second edition, was known for being more stable and having fewer bugs compared to the initial release of Windows 95. Windows 98 SE fixed many of the issues that plagued the first version of Windows 98, making it a more reliable choice. In summary, while Windows 95 was revolutionary for its time, Windows 98 refined many of its features, added significant improvements like USB and FAT32 support, and provided a more stable and user-friendly experience. So whether you're a fan of the pioneering spirit of Windows 95 or the polished performance of Windows 98, both operating systems have their own unique charm and contributions to the history of personal computing.